Hello, welcome to a new video. So, I was going to make a traditional video. I was going to do another kind of study session in my toned book, but it was way too loud and people just kept showing up at my house. Which is fine, but yeah, it would have been way too loud and you wouldn't have even been able to listen to the sweet, sweet sounds of sketching. So, instead I just opted into doing something similar digitally, kind of trying to replicate what I do in my book. But obviously I had the ability to erase, transform, whatever I really needed to do, because it is digital. I wasn't really going to take that away from myself, so I just went ahead and did it this way, but that's all I had. So there are no humans drawn in this video. Not a single one. I know, hold your applause. I instead opted to draw vehicles, and a couple rooms or little scenes, and these are all from Pinterest. Not from my head. Did not draw these from my head. I had reference. So, yeah. And then when I tried to screenshot these, my whole Pinterest refreshed. So, I'm really sorry, but I cannot show you the original pictures. And none of them were in my boards because I was just looking through the home feed. So, yeah, sorry about that. If you're into similar things, they'll probably pop up on your Pinterest. So if you see them, it's probably what I got it from. Well, if I did it well enough. Yeah. And then when I showed my sister these, because I was, near finished or what have you, she said that they look like concept art for a video game or an animation project, and it made me laugh. So, because those types of books I'm really into. I don't like the finished rendered stuff as much, not to be unfair, but I feel like I see it so much in the finished product, and I don't really get to see a lot of the sketchy stuff, like the beginner stage concepts. And I really like that stuff quite a bit. If you know my general likes and dislikes, you'll probably guess, because I'm huge into any sort of doodling and sketching looking stuff. I obviously enjoy finished work. I think it looks fantastic, and it's great and enjoyable, but I feel like I get a lot from seeing, the beginning stages of things. I mess up a little bit on the shadows on this, so keep that in mind. Generally when I'm drawing shadows, I draw from the topmost corners down. Also, the perspective on that little truck was troubling me to some degree, because it was the first thing that I drew, and that, it's not quite fisheye, but the vanishing points are a little strange for me. I like to draw cars in a 2-point to 3-point perspective, and yeah, it was just kind of an interesting thing for me, which is why I chose it, and I wanted it to be difficult. And this one is, what would you call it? I could say greenhouse, but my brain keeps thinking atrium, but that's probably incorrect, so whatever it is. Big glass building, got plants inside. Yeehaw. So, yep, I drew it with very minimal detail to begin with, so that I could begin correcting my shapes thereafter. I was not drawing any sort of vanishing points and stuff. I probably should have done some sort of perspective grid just to practice it, but I like to try to get things by eye sometimes as its own kind of practice, so that, I can kind of see when something looks off. I'm not perfect at it, and you'll definitely see my mistakes, especially people with a more practiced eye. You will absolutely see mistakes that I make, and that's just how it is. Again, I haven't done a lot of these in quite some time, and I felt good. I felt good that day, actually. It was kind of weird. I have been drawing pretty much every day, and I was working really hard. I didn't have a lot of regular work, which was kind of fantastic, just to have some free time to draw as I pleased. That was really good, and it made me feel a lot better. I'm sure everyone has heard me talk about the struggle, and the struggle is real. So, yep, I've got a lot of stressful stuff going on, but that made me feel better, just to be able to draw again without feeling so rusty, and kind of makes me feel a little dumb Makes me feel like I got that smooth brain, so it just felt good. It felt good to feel like my eyes were seeing things a little bit better. I can't explain it in any way other than like that. I knew I was kind of in the right mindset for this because as I started to look at things, I could see them broken down into shapes. And I guess an example of that would be our dog was home and I was looking at him and he has kind of a mask to his patterning, which is super cute. And he's got little freckles and whatnot. But I was breaking his face up into those shapes and yeah, I just immediately thought, oh yeah, I could draw him. And when I start feeling that way, not overwhelmed by these details, it's a good sign. It's a good sign to do practices like these for me. Then I feel like I take a lot more away than I would otherwise because I'm not struggling and focusing on just trying to see a shape, which is its own practice, obviously, but yeah. And I named my file Denshi. It just means practice in Japanese, but I didn't use the kanji. I do know the kanji, I just didn't have my keyboard IME switched over, and in the moment I didn't want to. I was just trying to be quick. So if you're wondering why it's named that, it just means practice. It's not groundbreaking. You would learn it really fast. So yeah, then I was using that Comitex brush, which is just a paper texture brush, to fill in because I really like it, and it looks a lot like, you know, kind of what I would use on paper with my little Tombow markers and whatnot. So yeah, essentially that's what was going on. That's the general idea. Long-winded, but you know, there you go. I was doing pretty simple shadows. Sometimes I was, you know, taking some liberties with that. Just kind of how it is. And then I get bored, I think on the very last one, not of the picture, but I get really tired of looking back and forth between things. I know it sounds weird, but if you've ever experienced that, you'll understand. I get really annoyed having to look at a reference, which is why I try to draw most things from my brain. So yeah, I definitely took some liberties on that one and changed some things around because I didn't want to draw exactly what I was seeing anymore. So, and I do gently stylize, but I would like to go and do a session at some point where I heavily stylize things like this. I really want to kind of figure out what kind of backgrounds I like. Obviously, some of the stuff that I draw comes out looking almost slightly cartoony. I practiced that a lot back in the day. So, yep. This little car thing was interesting. It had such a weird shape to the front of it. It's gonna look wrong, but that's what the front of it looked like. It was interesting. I really like drawing vehicles. I've mentioned it. I think I mentioned it in my study video where I did a lot of mushrooms and a tree. But I really enjoy drawing vehicles. I thought about drawing a Vespa or something, but every time I got to one of the pictures, I was like, I don't feel like that. I want to draw weird-looking vans and little trucks and things today. So, which is fine by me. I really enjoy drawing old cars or foreign-looking cars. There's something about them that almost looks cartoony on its own, and I actually think that it's because I'm unfamiliar with the look of them, and so it just seems like something someone made up, you know, and just put in their comic or put in an animation. And you think that can't function, that can't possibly function. I put that wheel a little too far to the inside on that back end, but that's okay. I don't know how the doors on the back of this went. They kind of look like those ones that fold into themselves, almost like a closet door, but I wasn't sure. And then this brush kept fighting me a little bit by not drawing as quickly as I wanted it to, and I always have problems drawing my ellipses and circles whenever it's doing that. It makes me very annoyed because I don't like to draw things slowly. I can kind of do it on some edges, but yeah, when I try to do circles and stuff, I want to go fast. Gotta be Sonic fast. But yeah, it wouldn't let me. So we get what we get. And that is wonky tires. Not that I'm fantastic at drawing ellipses or anything. I am definitely not by any means, and I could use all the practice I can get. But man, did it just feel nice to actually be able to draw something and feel a little better that day. Just really, really did. And then the day after, I immediately had to go to work. Kind of surprised. I think it was the day before this. I don't know. I ended up with work that I didn't expect I was going to have. And then I ended up with work I knew I was going to have for a while that I thought was going to be the last time, but it's kind of sounding like we'll have at least one more time. We'll see if it doesn't turn into even more. But yeah. So this one, it's another little car thing. And towards the beginning, I could not figure out what was going on with the front of it because there was like some boxes and crates and stuff in the way. And I kind of changed some things around and add stuff to this one because I just wanted to balance it out in my own way. And I could have done more, but I didn't, so, you know. But I struggled a little bit with the front of it because it was pretty snubby. We personally have a really old dump truck that we have nicknamed Firebee. And it looks like a little fire truck, but it is a dump truck, and it's got a super snub nose on it, but it's really flat, and so I really had to think about that when I was doing this one. And anyway, that front part, where it looks like there's a little, what would you call those, an overhang or some such, like right between the front, I could not figure out what that was for, and originally I was just like, I'm just gonna put a flashlight in there as a placeholder, and I'll figure out what goes there later. Well, as I was scrolling, I actually found out that it is a little wheel, so I did put that in, as soon as I recognized it as what I had drawn before. I thought this was really interesting, so they had put a ladder on this sucker, so they could get to the top because they had like a bunch of fruit stacked on it. And I thought that was really charming, so I think that was the biggest reason why I ended up drawing this picture. Watch me get the perspective wrong on this ladder. Brilliant. So good. Like in the moment I'm looking at it and I can see where I went wrong, but yeah, when I was seeing it then, I did not catch that. They had 2 umbrellas over the top of this. One might not have been an umbrella, but it kind of looked like one. And then up top was this box of fruit. Looked like oranges, but it could have been anything. I just really like cars. I've said this before, but you know, if you didn't watch any of my older videos, my older brother, I think he's about 9 years older than me, was super into cars when I was a kid, and he had this like how to draw cars book that I thought was the best, and I wanted to impress him by being able to draw cars, so I practiced really hard. And I remember my mom had this Mercury, and I was drawing that standing on our back porch, I think, or maybe just at the door. So, yeah, pretty far back I can remember liking to draw cars, and every single time I would draw one and it looked like what I wanted it to, I felt really, really good about it, so that kind of carried on. I actually got really nervous to draw cars for a long time, because the feeling of, at this age, I should be able to draw X thing better, which is incorrect. I think that age doesn't have anything to do with it, but practice does. So if you have practiced it for a long time, you'll just be able to draw it, and it has nothing to do with your age, because if you've never... I mean, you can build skills like, you know, getting good at breaking things down by shape, and it could give you an edge. But I still say, yeah, you're not going to be able to draw cars perfectly if you don't draw cars. So, to my younger self, shut up and put in the work. So yeah, it gave me that, and I couldn't really draw difficult things. I was scared of drawing buildings. I still get nervous like that, because I'm not a young buck, my friends. I'm really not. But I still have to remind myself occasionally that it's all in the practice. And if you want to be able to draw a thing, you need to draw it from real life. This is for me specifically. Got to draw it from real life and understand the general shapes, and then you can do whatever you want with them. You can caricature them as you please, and you'll have more information. You'll be full of the knowledge that you need to make it believable, or to at least make it something that people can, like, understand. They see it, they know what it is immediately. So yep, it's a lesson I'm constantly learning. And that's okay. And also, the problems that I have with perspective because of my eyesight are just, something I have to be aware of and work at. And they're not necessarily a problem, they're just a minor hurdle. And if anything, I can use it as an excuse to give myself more time to do better. Double check all my stuff. So change the mindset a little bit so I'm not being so hard on myself sometimes. But yeah, I can't expect those types of things to just be in my head without having put them there. So yeah, I mean, there are people who have subjects they're naturally good at drawing. I think something I've always been better at drawing is animals, and yeah, not really much else, I'll be honest. I've struggled with people. I draw people primarily, but I had a really hard time learning how to draw people. That's a subject that I wanted to be good at, and I just wasn't. So I had to put in a lot of work, and I still have to put in a lot of work because it's not perfect. This is the one I start taking some liberties with because I didn't want to look at pictures anymore. I also wanted to make different shapes, and I wish I would have just taken that opportunity to go crazy. Go crazy and caricature it all I pleased. I would have made that much longer and curvier, and I would have elongated the boat a little bit more. I probably would have hung some things over it, because if you're in a room without a lot of space, but you have, just something to put things on, like a coat, hat, whatever, you will just stick it there in my experience. So I feel like adding touches like that always makes my eyes happy when I look at something. So I wish I kind of would have done that, but I didn't. But it gave me ideas for how I would change it if I were to draw it from memory. And I'd probably flip it. I do try to practice sometimes drawing a subject as I see it, just breaking it down into really simple shapes, and then turning it using those shapes in perspective. Again, I'm not great at it, but I do try. And sometimes I get surprising results, for better or worse. So in the original picture, there is not a circle window, it's just a long rectangular window. And I don't think that there was a nightstand, but I just added one because I like nightstands. I don't personally have one, but I like them. I actually really like drawing boats, specifically the small old fishing boats. Yeah, I really like those. I really like the shape. My character that I've talked about a few times on here owns a little fishing boat. So I constantly think about drawing them just to get better. So whenever I actually design his boat, it's kind of believable and also fits into the world. I like drawing the, what would you call it? Like, it's not necessarily scaffolding. I used to remember what those were exactly called, or what they were called exactly. I can speak English, believe it or not, and it is my first language. I think was there a window there? Maybe there wasn't, and I just wanted to put one there. If there was a window, it didn't have a covering, but I wanted to draw one, so bam. Even though I did not line up the ends of it at all. That's okay. I like these nightstands with the little opening at the bottom that has a difference in plane, like the little steps at the bottom. I just decided to put some candles in there. I can't let up on this or it will it will layer. It will basically do a multiply thing and it'll layer another color over the other. Same as if you were using a water-based marker. So, yeah. I like that for what it creates, but you do have to be careful you don't lift your pen. Which is a little difficult for me because of my light hand. I don't think I quite nailed the lighting that I wanted. But it's fine for a sketch. Like, if you were using this as a base layout, it wouldn't really be a big deal because it wouldn't be the finished lighting anyway. It wouldn't even be the finished perspective or anything like that. And you could always add more stuff as you went. Just to fill out the room because it does look a little empty to me. Maybe add some shoes by the bed or maybe cubby out some of the bottom of the boat for a place to store shoes. That'd be pretty cool, actually. And the walls were like a stone or a brick. They looked more stony to me, but they were brick shaped. So these are the finished pictures. I hope that you liked them. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day or night, and bye.